Welcome to Inside the Deal. I'm Ken Klee, and I'm talking here today with Gerald Adolph, who leads the mergers and restructuring practice at Booz Co. Gerald, you were last here at the end of October talking about the M&A world going forward. You were guardedly optimistic then, with one caveat about the economy. And the economy's worsened since then, so what's your take now?
It was around about the time of the financial crisis, the credit freeze, and a lot of that was going on when I last visited. And what I said was that I thought that many of the strategic buyers that I work with would not be affected by that longer term, that they could work their way through. But that if the economy went significantly south, we would be looking at a really bad environment for M&A in 2009. And that's where we are now, of course. You've seen all the numbers that have spoken of gloom and doom.
So how is that playing out in some industries in particular? Are we seeing opportunities in a few sectors?
You know, I think obviously cash is king. If you've got a strong balance sheet, you start with the ability to do some things. There are different kinds of deals that I look for. One is there's obviously the distressed transactions, which we all know about in banking. We may begin to see some in automotive or tier one automotive. There's a number of buyers who are trying to bargain hunt, and by bargain hunt, I mean really lowball, not just price reset. The ones that are most interesting are what I call stressed strategic. That is to say, they're strategic, they make sense, and the fact that it's a stressed environment might make them more doable now than they were in the past. And what stress on the seller has done is actually just simply made it more likely that they're willing to have the conversation. And in that case, it's really about price and trying to find something that will induce the sellers, who probably have not yet mentally readjusted to the new market, that will induce them to do the transaction as opposed to bargain hunting.
So what's the mood in corporate boardrooms as companies look at these kinds of opportunities? I'm thinking there must be a certain amount of caution there, a heightened awareness of risk, but also maybe a sense of responsibility that if the opportunities are there, they need to go after them.
There are two kinds of conversations that I hear going on. One is a very traditional, wait it out, see it through. There may be major moves that those companies are taking, but they tend to all be on the cost side, and they tend to be cost-oriented. There are a number of companies, however, who are saying, you know, this is fairly significant. This is not a normal downturn, and as a result, there's opportunities for strategic repositioning. Either things that will happen in the industry, and we should be able to take advantage of it, or things that we may want to drive. And those are folks that are looking for the future. They're really making some intelligent bets, and they're trying to drive some opportunities.
So what about the risk of having something fairly ambitious in progress and having it get hung up by events that, you know, may be a consequence of the difficult environment? And I'm thinking in particular, you know, what Dow Chemical is going through. They needed to complete one transaction in order to go forward with another, and now they're having some difficulty.
So anybody who has to sell something in order to buy something, obviously this is a far more complicated environment than if you simply are looking to make some moves and take advantage of some opportunities. Dow is going through that. I think the consumer companies are also facing that, many of whom want to realign their portfolios in this environment, get a little more strategic coherence, but they need to sell in order to buy. And a couple of them have put their transactions on hold until at least the sell side sorts itself out. I think there are some industries that will see some really fascinating restructuring, though, and some clever deal arrangements with private financing, with cash-free swaps, as Alcoa just did the end of December. So I think we'll see a lot more creativity to get through this time.
Tell me more about the creativity and what role, say, private equity might play in some of these transactions.
Well, what's being asked of private equity and other kinds of investors now is to perhaps step up with some private financing to allow a transaction to go forward in an environment where the stock market is unfriendly, so my stock is not the right currency or wasn't as powerful as it was, and where debt is just going to be too costly, either in the absolute or with too many covenants. To ask someone to now step in with an extra kicker to make the deal happen. The cash-free swaps I think we'll see more of is simply when you find a good bilateral pairing, as you did with Alcoa and Orkla, that says, I have something, you have something, and in fact, if we can equalize the transaction, we both wind up a lot happier.
Gerald Adolph of Booz Co. Thanks very much for coming by again.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching Inside the Deal.